it is time. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. If you don't know who I am, my name is Emely Marlene and I'm 22 years old, born and raised in LA, and this is my YouTube channel. I am so excited. I've been wanting to do this for so long. This is the 5th video that I'm filming in about a week and a half, and I'm hoping that I don't have any problems with this one, and this will be the one that I post to YouTube for the first time. So this video is just going to be me talking about myself, my passion for makeup, what I want to do with my channel. I'm not really going to talk about the products that I'm using, but I will definitely have everything that I use listed down below. So if you guys want to learn a little bit more about me and who I am and what I want to do here on this beautiful channel, then just keep watching. So I'm going to start off with my foundation. Today I'm using the Estee Lauder Double Wear. So I got into makeup probably around the end of middle school. I was in a drill team, and for a drill team, we had to wear like really bright colors to stand out during a performance. That's also around the time I got into the classic black liner in the waterline. So I rocked that look for like a year. And then when I got to high school is when I started wearing wing liner. It was very much the little sister syndrome. My sister wore wing liner, so I wanted to wear wing liner, so I started wearing wing liner. I wore wing liner every single day pretty much for roughly 4 years. And granted, I only did wing liner. I didn't do anything on my brows, mascara, nothing else. Just a wing liner. And I don't have that many brow hairs, so you can imagine having like a thick wing liner and then just nothing else. Senior year, I thankfully found out what brows were, and I started filling in my brows and slowly started wearing more and more makeup. As I got to college, that's when I started watching a lot more YouTube, started doing more and more makeup. I started doing makeup on my friends' faces. In 2016, at the end of my freshman year, I started my second Instagram page. However, I really didn't post that often. If you noticed, over the past 4 years, I don't have that many photos, which is something I definitely regret. I had even intended on doing a YouTube. My summer, after freshman year, I recorded a video. In my room, I had placed a blanket on my bunk bed as a backdrop, and I had a little white plastic drawer where I had all my makeup, and that was my little makeup station. And I recorded a video and I ended up hating it. I felt so embarrassed, and then I deleted it. And I definitely regret not posting it. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but my imposter syndrome is knowledge is power. If I don't have everything prepared, if not everything looks good, if I don't have all the right tools, then I feel like something's a failure and then I give up. The video was not a bad video. Like, looking back at it, it was not a bad video. It was pretty decent for what I was doing. But because it wasn't like this perfect production with this nice background and lighting, I pretty much scrapped it. And even now I've been doing that with my YouTube channel. I could have already done all these things. I could have already posted. I mean, granted, this is like my 5th time recording. Hopefully this one turns out right. But I could have already posted. But I kept stalling. And I'm not a perfectionist either, so like I really do just give up. Like, it's not like I work until I have everything and it's perfect. Like, I give up because I don't have everything, and therefore I never produce what I say I want to produce. But I'm just at a point where I'm like, I'm over it. I'm going to be posting. I'm going to figure this out. I'm not making any money off of this. I just want to have fun with makeup and talk about things that I care about. I want to not just, you know, talk about makeup technique. I also want to talk about other things related to the makeup industry and even issues that are not related to the makeup industry. And so for today's video, I wanted to talk about a couple of those things. So for today, I really wanted to talk about 3 specific topics that, for one, that I care about beyond just makeup, but that I also want to incorporate in my content. Like I said, I want to do stuff beyond just showing you makeup. The first thing that I want to talk about and address is diversity and inclusion within the makeup industry. You know, most brands and most companies throw around those terms not really knowing what they mean. And I think the best way to start talking about this is with shade ranges for foundations. You know, a lot more brands are coming out with foundation ranges that, you know, have 60 foundations that claim to go from the lightest to the deepest to, you know, include everybody. But here's the issue. While, you know, a brand may have a lot of different shades, you know, that are very diverse, are they inclusive? Do they work for people? Do they have reasonable undertones? Certain brands come out with, you know, 60 foundation shades, and half of them turn out to be super orange color correctors that a lot of darker skinned people can't use. In situations like that, just goes to show that it's not really about diversity and inclusion. It's also about, do the darker shades actually work for Black people? Who is working behind the scenes? Who's a part of this production? Is it just white people trying to think of this is what's gonna look good? Or does it include people of all skin tones trying to develop not only the formulation but also the shade range? You know, when it comes to the beauty community, especially looking from the outside in, a lot of people think it's all drama. But I think that there is two types of drama. I'll say drama, but I don't think it's the right word. The first kind of drama involves influencers that are at the top, ones that are making millions of money and are the most well-known. I don't even have to name them. You probably already know who I'm talking about. And that's that kind of drama where there are petty fights, you know, where fans and stans will fight to the death to defend these influencers that at the end of the day will still be making a ton of money and really could care less about, try to actively not pay attention to. The other type of drama I think is drama that is relevant. In the past month or so, you've seen a lot more Black influencers talking about their experiences with brands and how they've been treated. You know, stories about Black influencers talking about their pay rate and how much they were being paid by different brands that might have said, you know, we don't have that much of a budget, yet we're paying a white influencer 10 times the amount they were being paid. That is actually relevant. We're talking about artists and creators that don't have as many followers as those at the top, you know, aren't making as much money, who have to really advocate for themselves. With brands, it's like who's working in the background, who's working at your corporate and executive levels, how many people of color do they have working in their offices, how many Black people do they have working in their offices, particularly in the corporate and executive levels. Those are the conversations that we need to be having that are important and relevant. And I will say, like, as somebody who has such a small platform, it is kind of difficult to hold brands accountable. Diversity and inclusion is not just within the products themselves. Diversity and inclusion must carry itself through all aspects of the industry. And that's why it's so important to support movements like the hashtag ColourPopMeBlack movement. ColourPop is a very accessible and affordable brand with a very wide range. Their fan base includes a lot of Black artists and creators, yet their page was barely showing any Black people. Maybe very diverse, their Instagram feed was not. And so the ColourPopMeBlack movement, UA and Killer King, was about, hey, look at all these artists that support your brand, yet you're not supporting us. And that needs to change. And that movement really inspired me wanting to do my recreation series. I recreated looks from 10 different Black artists. And I would just say real quickly, I enjoyed that series so much. It was so much fun. I was so inspired. I had the opportunity to interact with some of the artists when they saw my recreations, which was honestly just so sweet for them to take the time out of their day to like and comment like that. It was a nice feeling. I wanted to be really intentional when I did that series, and so I made it a point to post the artist's look before mine. You know, on Instagram you want to share your work, but I wanted to make sure that, you know, as much as I wanted to share my work, the purpose of the series wasn't to just show my work. I could have easily posted my recreation, tagged the artist and been like, oh, here's the artist I was inspired from, go look at their work, or, you know, put their look after mine and tell you to swipe right to see it. The intention of the series was for you to see these artists on your timeline. Brands are less likely to repost looks from Black artists and creators, and that contributes to the erasure of Black artists. When I was doing my series, I wanted to make sure that these artists were seen. Again, even though I have a really small platform, I knew that I had an opportunity to, you know, support these artists. And I did that knowing that somebody might not swipe over to see my look, which is perfectly fine because that wasn't the purpose of the series. The purpose was to showcase Black artists, for you to see them on your feed. They're less likely to be reposted. Changing that. When you go to my feed, yeah, you see my looks, but you also see these other amazing artists that need to be recognized and that need to be showcased. You know, I've seen so many GoFundMes on Twitter that have surpassed their goals. And if you go to see all the donations, you see a lot of small donations. You see $5, $20, $15, $10. And for me, while I do have a small platform, me doing that work for that series, you know, equates to those $5 in that fundraiser, because all of it adds up over time. That's one thing I really want to focus on when it comes to my channel and my Instagram, that I'm constantly doing little bits of work while also doing something that I really enjoy, which is makeup. So the next thing I want to talk about, the second thing that I wanted to talk about is in regards to sustainability. You know, I'm not perfect when it comes to being the most sustainable person. I'm not perfect when it comes to making sure that I am buying the best products and ingredients. I try to, but I know that I'm not perfect. And when it comes to the makeup industry, in regards to sustainability, I mean things like packaging, what ingredients are being used, are they sustainable, are they being ethically sourced? Those are some of the things I want to learn more about and kind of find more brands that are being environmentally conscious. Because makeup itself is a very wasteful industry. You use a mascara every few months and that is, another product that has to be thrown away. Another example is giant PR boxes that brands send to influencers. These excessive boxes that hold like 3 items and end up going to waste anyway. They serve no purpose. I have one really brief example that's kind of boring, but I had ordered from e.l.f. a couple months ago. I made a very large order and there was an item missing. I emailed them saying I didn't want to have to waste packaging and all this energy just to send me this one small item. I'm okay if I get like store credit or, I can just buy it at a later time. Maybe I should have specified just give me a refund, but whatever. But the next day I had already gotten an email that they were already sending me the item and I was like, well, that's not what I asked for, but that's okay. I get it. About a week later, I got this giant box that I knew was from e.l.f. because it was the same box that my order had come in. And I stopped and thought, did they send me like extra product? Like, why is this so big? Mind you, their boxes have several layered flaps to make sure that none of the product inside falls out. And I opened it up and it was just the card that brands send when you order from them, and it just says thank you for ordering, and it had the small glitter shadow. It was such a waste of a box for this one tiny item. So I emailed them back and I said thank you for sending me the item, I appreciate it, but this packaging is really excessive, like this is really unnecessary. They emailed me back saying thank you for your feedback, we'll forward it to whatever department. Now, will that do anything? Who knows? When it comes to these issues, whether it be about diversity or environmental sustainability, we live in a capitalistic, consumeristic society. If there's no demand for a change where brands need to be more inclusive, where brands need to be more sustainable, then brands aren't really going to care because they're still going to be making their money. Maybe there's enough people that will email or have an issue with it that they will actually make a change. Packaging is a very on the surface thing. When you look at it deeper in regards to ingredients, it's even harder. And I understand that it's not an easy thing to try to figure out how every single item was sourced within a product. Because brands aren't working all the way from the beginning where they source these ingredients all the way to selling it to you. Brands work with manufacturers to create their products, and then manufacturers work with other companies to get these ingredients and so on and so forth. I want to do research on brands that are being sustainable, that are actively trying to reduce packaging or use ingredients that are sustainable. It's not just about being vegan and cruelty-free. If a brand wants you to know they're being environmentally conscious and environmentally sustainable, they will let you know. Brands want to showcase that. They don't want to hide that. So when a brand doesn't address this issue, I'm almost 100% certain that they don't care. They don't. So when you combine the issue of, how difficult it is to know how certain ingredients are being sourced with brands not actively trying to be sustainable, all of those things combined make this issue that much more difficult. So that's why I plan on doing more research on specific ingredients, because my goal isn't to cancel brands and say, don't buy from this brand, they're really bad. My point is, let's see if we can find an alternative. Let's see if we can advocate for, to take out specific ingredients and use alternatives to it. Which leads me into the other part of the production of makeup and skincare when it comes to labor. It's not just about if the ingredients are sustainable, but it's also, is the manufacturing and production and sourcing of these ingredients ethical? The exploitation of labor when it comes to sourcing these ingredients. I'll reference fast fashion for a moment. Like I said before, if a brand is not actively trying to show you and tell you how they are ethically sourcing the materials for their products, most likely than not, they aren't paying attention to that. They're not caring about that. There's a reason why Forever 21 is so cheap, and it's because most of their products are being sourced and put together by slave labor or people that are being underpaid. People already don't like to talk about the environment. People even less like to talk about labor and labor exploitation and slave labor. There are people who are enslaved both in the US and around the world that have produced and put together something that you are wearing, using, or touching on a daily basis. That is reality, whether it be fashion, whether it be makeup, skincare, agriculture, tech. None of those industries are exempt from the use of slave labor. It's really difficult to track every single step of the process from when the product is being sold to you all the way back to how the ingredients of that product were sourced. So I'll give you the example of mica. Mica is a mineral? Mica is a mineral that is used in eyeshadows to give a, shimmery appearance. That's probably a really bad description of it. I'll leave articles down below about it. And what is shown in regards to mica is that about a fourth or a third of mica used in cosmetic products were mined by child slaves. So there is a very good chance that in your makeup products that contain mica, that mica was mined by a child slave. And again, it's not about being like, I'm never going to buy from this brand again, they're horrible, yada yada, because a lot of brands use these products, use ingredients that oftentimes are not ethically sourced. You would essentially have to boycott the entire industry, which you can do, but at the end of the day, they're still going to be making millions of dollars and they're still going to be using those products. So how do we try to change that culture? So if brands are going to be making a ton of money regardless of me boycotting the entire industry, how do I change it? And I mean this specifically with the makeup industry. This is not, about all systems in our society, because I'm talking specifically about makeup. If a brand is pressured enough and monetarily incentivized to change the way they act and what they do, then they'll do it. If they have that monetary incentive, they will. So if enough people are demanding for a change, they can change. Will it necessarily work? Who knows? It took a very long time for ColourPop to ever recognize the ColourPop Me Black movement. ColourPop, on every single post, you would see people commenting about, why haven't you recognized these artists? Why haven't you addressed this issue yet? You've been completely silent about it, yet you've been now sprinkling in more black artists onto your feed. So what's going on? It's a really difficult process. Again, even though I have a very small platform, even though I only have those $5, I can contribute to that larger movement, that larger conversation to make that difference. I want to do a video where I talk about different ingredients that were most likely not have those specific ingredients, and certain brand products that have those ingredients. And what I'll mention real quick is something that I don't want to do is tell you to not buy from these brands, to cancel these brands. It is up to you if you still want to buy from these brands. What I want to do is advocate and try to start a conversation with these brands to change their formulations and to take out some of these ingredients that might either be very harmful to the environment or are being produced by people who are enslaved. Again, very difficult, but we've even seen a transition in brands, becoming cruelty-free and vegan. There is a demand for this change, and there is a constant push for change. It will happen. Us boycotting isn't going to change the industry. It's going to stay the same because those brands are still making tons of money. That being the case, you can do two different things. You can advocate for a brand to change their practices and what they're doing, advocate and demand that they increase the amount of black people that work in their executive offices, while also demanding that they diversify their posts, that they diversify their products. If a brand has shown you that they don't want to change, that they're going to keep the status quo, then you can choose to not buy from that brand, and all the more power to you. Another thing you can also do is support smaller brands. It's extremely important that yes, these big makeup companies are still going to be making their money, and so therefore we should demand change. It's also about understanding where you're putting your money. Big makeup brands are not the only brands that are out there. There are a ton of brands that are black owned, LGBTQ plus owned, POC owned, women owned. And something I really want to point out is that while we're talking about, diversity and inclusion, environmental sustainability, and the ethical use of labor, while these topics are not mutually exclusive, I'm also not going to hold all brands to the same standard. In my opinion, I think it's easier and more understandable to demand of larger brands to use ethical labor practices and be environmentally conscious. I'm not going to stand here and yell at a small indie brand that is black owned, why aren't you being sustainable? It is much more difficult for a black owned, POC owned, women owned, LGBTQ plus owned business or brand to get funding. They also are making less money off of the consumer compared to these big giant brands. My analogy is that I can't be upset with everybody for not being vegan, understanding that meat and animals are vital resources in certain communities. I'm going to demand of larger brands that they use ethical labor standards and are environmentally conscious. I'm not going to do the same when it comes to a small brand that more likely than not does not have enough funding to be able to put in the money towards all these things. If I were to boycott the entire makeup industry, yeah, I'm not contributing to waste and the use of slave labor and the continual erasure of Black people. Yeah, I wouldn't be participating in it, but I wouldn't be with my channel. That's what I want to do. Again, while I have a very small platform, I have the ability to advocate for these things to change. So I just finished my brows off camera because they require a lot of concentration. I use the Patrick Ta brow wax, and then I use the Mented Cosmetics brow pencil. By the way, Mented Cosmetics is a Black-owned brand. I'm gonna list a bunch of different Black-owned brands that I've bought from down in the description box below. I'm going to do a very simple, soft brown look. Nothing too crazy, nothing too complicated. I think I covered a majority of the things I wanted to talk about. I might have talked about things out of order. I mean, I wrote like an entire outline of everything that I wanted to talk about, but even then, like, I forgot a couple things. So I sprinkled them throughout as I remembered. So hopefully this all made sense. And I just want to point out that I don't only want to talk about like those 3 things on my channel. I definitely want to talk about issues that are not directly related to the makeup industry or the beauty community. I want to make it a point that, you know, if you're a friend of mine who doesn't do makeup, you can still watch my videos and learn something. I want to have important conversations on these issues, and I want to interact with everybody and make this a place of like learning and growing. I never want to portray myself as the authority on these issues. When it comes to diversity and inclusion, I understand that I am a non-Black, white-passing, cisgendered woman. You know, I want to make sure that I'm properly using my platform and my privilege to advocate for a dismantling of oppressive systems while also actively trying to unlearn my own biases. And that is even included within makeup. Conversations about diversity and inclusion and ethical standards within the makeup industry is not a new conversation. I have been inspired by so many artists who constantly use their platforms to speak on these issues. And I'm still actively thinking about the different ways to incorporate that into my channel. Because I don't only want to talk about these issues when there's a dedicated video for it. I want to incorporate it into my regular content. I don't want to create this perception that I have my normal content and then my content related to advocacy. I want to make sure that I'm giving you all links in my description box about, you know, places to donate, organizations to follow, petitions to sign. Like, I want to actively be doing that. So I did my mascara off camera. I didn't do any wing liner today because I'm a little lazy. I was gonna do it, but now I'm like, another day. I'm gonna finish off with my lips and then we'll wrap things up. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Down below I will link articles to the various things I talked about, Black-owned brands, as well as all the details of this makeup look. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, turn on your notification bell. Please comment down below any video suggestions, whether it be makeup related or not makeup related. Like, I definitely want to do content that you guys want to watch. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I will see you on the next one. Bye! I'm using my platform. The queen is coming. Please let me know if you know that reference. Thank you. This is so ugly. This is so trashy.